name on the front is a hell of a lot more important than the one on the back. Doesn't anyone notice this? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
Wham! Cut-zap. First try. Why so serious?
He's a fast killer.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
I'm drinking pump. I've been drinking green tea all goddamn day.
I don't know. I have a bad feeling about this.
Hello, everybody. You are listening to the Good Day for a Movie podcast. We are brought to you by GD4GD, so head on over to GD4GD.com and buy some dope gear because $10 of every sale gets donated to their nonprofit partner, which is currently the Matthews House. They're a nonprofit that empowers youth and families by building trusting relationships. Their Strengthening Families program takes a holistic approach in helping at-risk families achieve stability. This helps disrupt the cycles of poverty and abuse. So, like I said, head on over to GD4GD.com and buy some awesome gear. I'm Jacob, and alongside me, as always, Tate.
What's up?
And our anonymous third co-host.
Yeah.
How we doing, boys?
Doing good. I'm drinking a little shout out to my favorite brewery, Odell's. I'm drinking a Wickus White.
They really needed that help.
Yeah, they're struggling. No, they are killing it. And this is probably one of my favorite beers by them ever. Came out this year.
It's super average, but it's astronomically better than their Oktoberfest beer.
Grapefruit white ale. It's like a fruity Belgian white. It's so good.
Give me a banquet over that crap any day of the week.
Good thing we have some of those.
Lies. We're all out, but whatever.
They got drank on football Sunday.
You know, it's not that big of a deal because it's my pick.
That is a big deal.
And I think I have a pretty fun movie in store.
What you got for us?
Okay, so this movie came out in 2011. Directed by Woody Allen. Starring Owen Wilson.
What?
And Rachel McAdams. This movie is called Midnight in Paris. Have you guys seen it?
I love Midnight in Paris, and that's not Rachel McAdams. Oh, that is Rachel McAdams.
You guys have both seen this?
Forced me to watch this.
Okay, I'm picking a different movie then. Damn it.
I would totally watch that movie. I've seen that movie like 5 times, and I would watch it.
So, I have a movie that I have never seen. I've seen bits and pieces of this. It's another classic, if you will, starring one of my favorite actors of all time, Sylvester Stallone.
Rambo?
We're watching First Blood.
Oh, I've never seen it.
Have you seen it?
No, I've never seen a movie with Sylvester Stallone.
Oh, man,
Is this not Rambo?
This is Rambo, but it's just called First Blood.
So this is the first
Yes,
Rambo.
This is the very first Rambo.
I was about to say, because he looks exactly like...
like Rambo, yes.
Okay, is he just different movie, same person?
Yep. Yeah, it's just called First Blood.
Huh. So then the other Rambos are just the sequels?
Yep.
Wow.
I had no idea.
Interesting.
Had no idea.
Yeah, so like the next one is from 1985, Rambo First Blood Part 2. Then Rambo 3, then it's just Rambo in 2008, and then last year, I guess it'd be 2 years ago, 2019, Rambo Last Blood.
So they really started to build off the Rambo name.
Yep.
After this movie.
They just kind of dropped First Blood. And, yeah.
Huh. I never knew that.
I just scrolled through the cast, and I don't know anyone in this movie. And I only know Sylvester Stallone because he's notoriously Rocky, but I have not even seen Rocky.
That will be one of my picks at some point.
That is a must-watch that I have not seen.
Rocky is one of my favorite. If it wasn't for Star Wars, I would be a massive like Rocky geek, if you will, because they're just that good. So we will most definitely be watching each and every single one of those.
All right, so this one's an hour and a half. Love it.
Yep.
Ted Kotcheff.
Yep.
Anything on him?
Nope.
All right.
Description: that not that anybody needs this. A veteran Green Beret is forced by a cruel sheriff and his deputies to flee into the mountains and wage an escalating one-man war against his pursuers.
Wow. Yeah. I'm in. I'm ready for an action. I'm feeling a little
So like
happy
Sylvester
pumped
Stallone, Vietnam, Die Hard.
Sounds like it.
Okay.
I'm assuming this is
on Christmas.
No, this is not a Christmas movie, nor is Die Hard.
Controversial.
All right, we will see you guys on the other side.
John Rambo, a drifter, just passing through their town.
Morning. Headed north or south?
North.
Now jump in. I'll make sure you're heading the right direction. Huh?
You got someplace I can eat around here?
There's a diner about 30 miles up the highway.
Is there any law against me getting something here?
Yeah, me. I want you to book this gentleman for vagrancy, resisting arrest, carrying a concealed weapon.
They knew he was innocent.
Starting to dislike you. A lot.
And they didn't give a damn.
That's okay, Warren. Don't worry about the soap. He's tough. Just save him. Try.
Don't move. I don't want you to cut your own throat.
John Rambo, one man who's been pushed too far.
You're finished! You've gone as far as you're gonna go! Heading straight for the top. Right on top. There's no way out of here except through us.
He was hunted. Trapped.
There he is! On the cliff!
And forced to fight back.
Don't push it. Don't push it. I'll give you a war you won't believe.
Teasel, you and all your men couldn't handle him before. Now, what makes you think you can handle him now?
Because God knows what damage he's prepared to do.
You don't seem to want to accept the fact that you're dealing with an expert in guerrilla warfare.
Are you telling me that 200 men against your boy is a no-win situation for us?
You send that many, don't forget one thing. A good supply of body bags.
Sylvester Stallone. This time, he's fighting for his life. First blood.
Took you so long. That was like
deal
a
with a
5
gigantic
second...
microphone in my shit.
All time bad.
Well, yeah, you're gonna crack it on like the side. You know that the volume comes in like.
For the record, I cracked that beer this time, and it was good.
It was one of the more
It was a
ridiculous
dramatic. It was a
beer
dramatic
cracks I've
beer
ever
crack
heard.
for sure.
Dramatic beer crack for a dramatic episode. Or dramatic movie. Dramatic episode about a dramatic movie.
Hopefully, we're not going to be that
Hopefully,
dramatic.
yeah.
But,
But
I
definitely a
agree
dramatic
overall.
movie.
I was not. I knew that this story was kind of about dealing with PTSD and kind of the effects of it. I didn't know it was going to be that deep.
Yeah, so that's one thing that I really want to get into is that last scene because I didn't know that this movie, I guess opposite of you, that this movie was going to have that aspect. I thought it was just going to be a pure entertainment, more closer to like a old school war version of Bourne. But that last scene, yeah, I did not expect that at all, and I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, it was good. I don't have any additional input beyond what you guys said.
I think it was just unexpected, but
yeah, I think we should end talking about that.
Something that I want to get right into is that I loved that in the movie they got right to it. They didn't there was not a lot of introduction, kind of behind the scenes stuff. All it was that he showed up, he found out his friend didn't live there and his friend had died, and then 5 minutes later he was on the run. And And so that's why I actually thought that this movie was going to end much earlier, because it just felt like they got, like, it felt like that entire beginning scene was longer than it actually was. It was probably like 15 minutes. But so yeah, they got right into it, which I liked.
Yeah, I would like to kind of bring to light the absolute genius of Sylvester Stallone. He helped write this movie. Most of the big movies that he's been in, he's written. He wrote Rocky. He wrote, I think, all of the Rockies. He helped write both Creeds. He is an underrated genius. And I think a lot of it is he's so unassuming. He just seems like such a kind of a simple guy that it's amazing how really complex thoughts that he has and the ability to put those to paper and then to screen.
So were his first movies Rocky?
Yes.
That he was in and I guess wrote?
Yeah, so his first...
Wow, that's pretty good for your first set of movies to come out are Rocky and Rambo, and to be a writer on them.
So there's a very interesting story behind him and his Rocky and how he got that movie made, which I think we should wait until we review Rocky.
Mm-hmm. Let's stick to Rambo.
Yes.
First Blood.
Yes, First Blood, which still just absolutely throws me off.
I'll probably forever, and even in this podcast many times, call this Rambo. Rambo 1.
Yeah. Also, I think he is an incredible actor.
He did that. That was the thing, is I didn't, throughout this entire movie, I was like, he's nothing special. Because his character didn't show any emotion. And he was basically a robot for all of this movie up until that last scene. And that last scene really did it for me.
It is hard to say from this movie because 80% of what he did was jumping around and action stuff. But from the 20% that was quote unquote acting, like dialogue, yeah, it was pretty good. I think I need to see Rocky because, again, this is, to my knowledge, the first Sylvester Stallone movie I've seen. So my perspective is thin.
Well, you've seen Guardians 2. He's in that.
Of the Galaxy?
Yeah.
Well, that was a horrendous movie.
No, that was a pretty good movie. I like that movie.
I don't even remember that he was in that movie.
Well, he was. Anyways, I thought it was really up until the end. I was like, man, he really hasn't said many like words.
Yeah, no,
and he really didn't.
No, in the first 30 minutes, and also credit to his patience in those first scenes with the cops, because I was getting irritated. But I just all the treatment that they're putting him through. But yeah, for all of that, he basically talked to the wife of his, I assume it was the wife, of his deceased friend. And then he had a few lines with the cop initially. And then for the next 10, 15 minutes, up until he was basically, actually, I don't even think he had a line up until his guy contacted him.
Yeah. That's the only,
I mean, he had a few
his colonel
lines here and there about when he confronted the cop the first go around.
Oh, yeah.
So I could have
He did
killed
have a
every
couple
one of you.
lines, and yep. Okay, so he did have a couple there, but yeah, and I guess even when he talked to his colonel, it was like 5-10 lines, and then that was over for another 30 minutes.
And I think that's an important part too, is that he didn't kill a single person in this movie.
Yeah, which I mean, they'd argue that he killed the first guy, but you can't even really say
no, that was just the cops
killed the first guy.
The cops are throwing him under the bus.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, is he didn't intentionally kill anybody.
He didn't even kill the cop.
Definitely could have.
He didn't kill the cop, but he did kill 3 dogs, which is kind of tragic.
He did kill 3 dogs.
That's the worst
pretty
crime
tragic.
of them all.
Yeah, I mean, they were definitely ready to do some damage to him. So, but that was pretty tough.
At least we didn't see it.
Yeah,
it was. Thank you for not even showing the dogs post, because that was very nice.
But one thing that I thought was kind of funny throughout the chase scene immediately when he was on the motorcycle and running is that it almost seemed like, and throughout the entire movie, I feel like they have the wrong amount of police necessary. So he was running away. Obviously he beat up a couple cops and ran away. But then it's all of a sudden he's got 5 stars in GTA and they're calling the cop or the chopper in on him and the guy's trying to kill him and all these things. when he's hanging on a cliff. And I was like, Jesus Christ, that's like all he did was just beat a couple cops up, take a motorcycle and run away. And they were chasing him so hard. And then they got at least 200 men to go up in the woods and get him. But then when he was down in the town and he was blowing up their whole town, like he was blowing up all these stores, shooting out all the like windows, lights, everything, nobody was around. And like even when he was driving into town, he crashed over that one cop car and there was like 7 other cop cars there, but then they'll just let him be. And then he blew up all those cars. I just thought that was crazy. But
in defense of the movie, I think they thought he was dead, so everyone went home because most of them were National Guard volunteers. And then they were like,
well, okay,
oh,
yeah, but
shit,
then, like,
Rambo's back.
But that's the thing is in the town, though, when he was blowing up all those cars, then all of a sudden a lot of cars showed up. And then he was
because they got called back because they were like, oh, shit.
Yeah, but then he's in the main downtown area and he's shooting out all the lights and blowing up all the stores and all these things, and there's still nobody around. And then...
Well, I think that's because they don't know where he is.
100 cops. Yeah, but it's a tiny town.
This is a flawed attempt at putting a hole in the movie.
I'm putting a big hole in it because then he kills the one cop, has his breakdown scene, and then there's like...
He didn't kill that cop.
He didn't kill him, but he like almost killed him. He like shot him in the leg. And then he has his breakdown, and then there's like 500 cop cars outside. And I was like, well, where were these guys?
They thought he was
20 minutes ago.
This is ridiculous.
Yeah, like it's a combination of they were like trying to dig out that cave, and probably a lot of them got sent home.
Not then.
And no, I know this is why they weren't there, and they didn't know where he was because he was shooting out all the lights, so nobody knew. Like,
yeah, and if you forget,
nobody could find him.
The only people at home were like the 6 cops they beat the shit out of.
I'm just
and they were like trying to deal with an insane gas fire.
He drove by like 10 cop cars, ran one over.
That is the only part where
there
will give you
are many
any
other holes,
and then he
minor
drives
holes
over
in this movie that are relevant, and this is just not one of them.
Blows up that car, and probably like the big explosion in the entire movie was at that scene because like everybody, and even from the cop, he looks outside the cop windows and they can see the explosions happening. And so then they all drive over there. But then all of a sudden, so that's how far away they is from that town. And then he's in the rest of the town shooting it up, and there's no cars, no cop cars even close to him.
Well, I think the only person that knew that he was shooting anything up was the sheriff.
Yeah, I'm just wondering where we're all like. There was just a disconnect on how many police officers were needed at a certain
that's all
times.
in your head, friend.
I think that's your problem.
We'll leave that
not
up to
everyone
the viewers.
else's.
Yeah,
that's a personal problem.
Yeah, it was a personal problem for me. But anywho, I just thought it was very funny that he immediately had a chopper. I keep on calling it copper. A chopper on him, right off the bat.
Listen here, Kappa.
Another weird thing about this movie, all the weird cuts mid-conversation with the main sheriff and his colonel. It happened actually 2 times. Is like, and then there's one other weird cut that I thought. But in like the first scene where the sheriff is talking to the colonel and they're having this conversation about who Rambo is, and then it just cuts to him killing a boar. And then it almost cuts immediately back to like in the middle of their conversation, almost like not a different scene, the same scene. Just so that was a weird cut. And then it happens again when they're in the police station near the end talking about him. And then it just cuts and shows Rambo running around the city a little bit and then goes back to their middle of their conversation. So I thought that those were kind of weird, unnecessary little cuts. And then the other one that I was thinking about was when they decided to send the 200 people up after him. And it shows them all walking through the rocks and through the river. And then it just shows him like crawl up from the river and the rocks. But then like the next scene, he's just like, and then it just shows him again, he's running around in the woods and finds the kid. And I was like, what? How does that work?
I mean, I thought the crawling up from underneath the rocks was badass.
Well, it was bad.
I thought that was an awesome scene.
It must have been freezing.
Oh, yeah.
I was indifferent. It was, yeah. When I saw it, I was like, yep, well, that's kind of what I expect from Rambo at this point.
That was my reaction. It was like, yeah, Rambo.
And I think he was just surprised to run into hunters. Like, because they weren't part of the...
But
they
what
were
was he
just
doing
hunters.
hiding in the river? As they were walking right by him.
Tate, goodness gracious. Were you in any form of the Army? Because I wasn't. That's probably just a thing to do. They're just scoping them out. Just doing the thing.
Yep.
Man, I think I'm poking the holes and you guys are covering them up with
Cement.
Nope.
I mean, it's cheese, but it's like a light Parmesan.
It's like 80s action.
It's what you expect.
Cheese,
It's definitely 80s action cheese, yeah. I'm just saying that I didn't...
But it's not a hole.
Yeah.
Well, it's not holes, I guess, in the plot.
You're just saying they're plot holes.
No, I'm saying I was saying they're
holes in the
weird
movies.
cuts. They're weird cuts, and they were... And I think...
I mean, that's fair. But
the weird cuts is fair.
And,
the weird cuts is fair.
And the police officer was the other thing that was... The police force. Anywho.
So we should have more relevant topics to talk about, like how big of a dick that sheriff was.
Yeah, big time dick.
That guy sucked. That guy gets biggest dick of 1982 award.
I thought he was going to be the nicest guy ever, because even when you read the description of the movie earlier on, didn't even really listen to it. So I was wondering who the conflict was.
Listen to me.
I had, when he was like, here, let me get you out of here. I was like, this guy's a dick.
I was like, he was what a dick. He just drove him all the way through town.
And then he was like, yeah, get out of here. And I was like, yeah, major dick. And then he sees him like walking back to the town and then goes back and get him. And I was like, well, here we go. This is the confrontation that's happening.
And then he's immediately like, he's resisting arrest.
Yeah. I was like, this got major dick status. And then he runs into the other police officers, and then the guy that dies almost is pretty much just as big of a dick as the sheriff. Like,
probably
shitty
more.
town. I don't want to visit that town. Fuck that town.
The water hose
Got
scene?
sheriff and police like that.
Well, the main reason I don't want to visit that town is because it's too close to the state of Oregon.
Bang! Bang! It's good!
We will get to that point later. But we will focus on the dick.
Yes. That water hose washing off scene was pretty brutal.
Yeah, because that was a fire hose. Yeah, that wasn't like a garden hose.
Yeah,
that's like some serious PSI coming out.
If you're like right next to it, like it draws blood and can like take your skin full clean off.
Yeah,
I've heard that they're intense.
Torturing him because he, that for me was a plot hole at how overly aggressive those police were.
Yes,
like. Police in a small town can be sus of random people going through because it's like not normal, but to that extreme, that's a relevant hole in the story, in the movie. It led to the conflict, but for me, it significantly defended Rambo. Because I was like, this is fucked up.
And I think that's probably the point of it being in the movie, is that we're supposed to be siding with Rambo here. We're not supposed to be sympathetic to the cops, and
yeah, they made that really clear.
But like, it was weird that it happened, and I think that is, if we want to call it a plot hole, but just an interesting thing that happened in the story.
Yeah, see, I don't even call that I guess a plot hole, but
like, so they don't like this guy, but they're wanting to get him cleaned up for the judge to make a better appearance. That is what doesn't make sense to me. And they're being dicks about it.
Yeah, it was.
I think that that's just
their whole rationale was
their
just
power moves.
Swiss cheese, a lot of holes. It's poor.
You and your cheese metaphors.
I do love cheese. Another thing was the dialogue was pretty frustrating for me in this movie. In particular, every single conversation basically between the sheriff and the colonel, the exact same conversation.
Yeah, they didn't really.
That was frustrating. After the third time they were talking, like, you're not considering, well, I'm the boss here. I was like, shut up. Oh my God. You already said this like twice. And then they said it 2 more times. They had the same conversation like 5 times.
Yeah, and I mean, even the conversations between each other on the cops, like they would always, that's pretty much all this dialogue was for this movie. But
my biggest problem was Troutman. The person that played him, his name is Richard Crenna.
Was that the colonel?
Yeah. He just seemed to overact everything. And like, it was like he was like acting in Shakespeare that first scene. I was like, what's going on here? Why are you like delivering the lines the way that you're delivering them?
Yeah, it was pretty frustrating dialogue throughout the movie for me. Yeah, that was my biggest frustration.
I think that, again, just kind of goes back to that classic 80s cheese action.
Yeah. I think one thing, aside from the dialogue that I thought was really good, was it seemed like all of the, at least cars scenes and like the explosions and stuff like that were all pretty legit. At least they looked like it. like the car crashes and.
Oh, I mean, they didn't really have CGI back then. It was either.
Yeah, I was wondering. I was trying to think about at what point they started like faking all that stuff, but.
I mean, so one big. I don't want to call it a cheat because it's genius. And I don't know how much they used miniatures in this movie, but like, surprise, surprise, this is going to kind of come back to Star Wars, but like all the stuff in like Star Wars, all the ships flying around, anytime you see like a spaceship or a walker in Star Wars, they were all done with miniatures. So that's a possibility, but I have a feeling it was all just kind of stuntmen driving cars.
Yeah, I think with the landscape around them, it had to have been.
I would bet. If I had a Bitcoin, I would bet a Bitcoin that it was legit.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah. I just thought that all was impressive.
Yeah, that's the thing.
A lot
about
of the
80s
action from this film was really impressive.
Yep.
It is. There's a reason that action movies were kind of the big thing in the 80s because they were kind of figuring out how to blow things up in Hollywood. And they're like, this is freaking awesome. Yeah. And people loved watching it and still love watching it to this day.
Yeah, they got out of the John Wayne Western phase and they were like, oh, shit, we can blow stuff up on camera? Nice.
Oh, yeah.
One of the other things that you just reminded me of was the scene, though, where it reminded me of the scene where he built that thing that stabbed the cop in the legs. There's no way he would have built that contraption that quickly.
That's your first fair hole.
What? First?
Yeah. Only.
My retort to that is, well, he obviously did. You just saw it in the movie.
Well, that's my point, though.
No, you just saw it. He did it.
Yeah, but he doesn't do it.
No, he did, though.
Yeah, but that's my plot hole. Is that, like, he was... And all the other ones where he took all the other cops down, very legit. He was just had plans on his back and he was hiding, and he just kind of took them down with his hands. But that one is the one where I was like, what? They never even showed us that he was building any
they
traps.
Did. They showed him sharpening those sticks.
Yeah, they did.
Huh. I didn't even catch that. But I guess it still seems very
more complicated
quick.
Contraption.
Yeah, that was like, I mean, to get all like the torque on that and like the everything, the physical aspect of that.
The only defense to it would be, again, Tate, you're in a NAM. You're in the Green Beret.
I am not Rambo, if that's what you're saying, yes.
Zip it. What's zip it and maybe just zip it. Zip it.
What?
I don't know, but I like to have a suspension of disbelief when I'm watching action movies and be like,
yeah,
well,
I mean, you got to.
It happened, so he did it.
That's one of my big
Limit,
faults.
but I think there was enough about the character to defend that.
That's one of my big faults in watching movies is that I do immediately bark at things that seem very unrealistic. And to me, those are the two things that I'm barking at is that scene where he built that contraption, that trap, and then also the scene where he's blowing up the town and nobody was around to do anything about it. And then all the cops showed up. But those are my only two things about this movie because it just doesn't seem like that's how that would happen or how it would go down. But, I mean, other than that, yeah, the action was great. The one scene I was thinking about with the bazooka or the the rocket launcher, that was hilarious. Those guys are the only people in this movie that had some sense to them.
That was probably the best dialogue in the movie, like back and forth dialogue in the movie.
It was very funny.
When he was like, yeah, you go get him. He's like, fuck no, I'm not going to get him.
Screw that.
Screw that. Are you crazy?
Yeah. I'm a volunteer. I do this part-time. I'm not dying.
Only ones that had a brain to them.
And then when the sheriff was like, okay, well, you guys are going to be the one to dig him out. He's like, I got my shift at the pharmacy tomorrow.
It was a truck station.
Yeah, I think ridiculously funny.
I think all those guys, because that was one thing a third of the way into the movie, I was like, man, okay, so preface this. I thought this was going to be about him in Vietnam. I thought it was like starting...
I did too. That's when I completely disregarded what... I didn't hear what word you said at the beginning, and I thought he was going to be in Vietnam.
Yep. So when it ended up being like, this is going down right now, I was
Seattle.
like, oh, well, here we go. All right, what's going to happen? And when they started chasing him and he was taking out like the first 6 cops, I was like, man, is this going to turn into this very unrealistic, like 200 on one, and he takes out all 200 of them one by one. But I think that whole National Guard pinning him scene made it much more realistic, which was nice. I
Yeah.
appreciated that. And then against Tate's point, it was unrealistic, but to Jacob's point, kind of a suspension of
disbelief
for the town scene. I think there was
that's fine.
If a guy's really that legit and that like focused on not focused on, but he's in that mode or in that gear where he is basically who he was in Vietnam, I bet that guy could have done that damage in a small town like that. He was, I'm sure he probably did a lot worse, figuratively speaking, in Vietnam.
Oh, yeah, he would have done a lot worse. I'm just saying that there should have been somebody around other than him.
We don't need to go back to that bad point.
Anywho,
No.
that brings us right into the end, I think.
Yes, but first off, do you guys know this is based off a book?
I did not.
There's a book called First Blood. The rest of the movies are not based, like, there's not a book to go off of.
So this was just kind of like a hit, and they decided to make some more.
I do really like the name. I'm actually happy it's not named Rambo. I think First Blood is way more appropriate.
Much more appropriate name for basically, like, yeah, I mean, the whole quote when he said, they drew first blood.
Yeah,
and that's the whole point of this movie is they drew first blood. I'm just retaliating, and then they're like, oh well, he killed our cop. We're retaliating, and it was basically just a movie of climbing up the ladder between Rambo and the sheriff.
But
and it was kind of like it was just a competition of who was going to get the best of the other man. Yeah, they were just climbing up the ladder.
It was kind of just like a pissing contest.
Yeah.
All right. Yes. Let's kind of move into this last scene and the kind of PTSD aspect of this. I think this movie had to have been incredibly groundbreaking at the time because the American Psychiatric Association, the APA, didn't add PTSD as a diagnosis until 1980. So, of course, it was kind of known, but it was a lot of just like suck it up, like you're not there anymore type of reactions to anybody with PTSD. So I think this had to have been a big groundbreaking movie in a way to, I don't know if the right word's normalize, but to one, bring
Shine
to
the light
light,
on. Yeah.
and two, I'm sure, like, okay, so none of us have served, but I shouldn't say but. None of us have served, so we don't know what it's like to struggle with PTSD from wars and whatnot. To me, this has to have been like kind of I've said it a couple of times now, but groundbreaking moment in, I guess I'll say it again, normalizing PTSD and bringing it to the forefront.
Yeah, I think that's where this movie actually got good for me, was in that last scene, because it shined the light, like you're saying, on this serious and the serious consequence out of war and dealing with war. And I think that they did because I never thought about this movie even pointing or even getting to that point at all. But throughout the entire movie, he is kind of this robot, stone cold killer type, and it's kind of the basically what they're trying to get out of a lot of people for war. And then it's kind of about, like, to me, this movie's not as much about the entertainment aspect and the escalation of just action and cheesiness or whatever, but it's more about like an actual human experience of returning back to normal civilization after experiencing war. Because I think that's what I wrote, because they hinted on it in the beginning of the movie where he said, we don't want folks like you with your green jacket and your American flag on your chest and a vagrant that just kind of like that nobody wanted him around. And I think that's kind of, and I also, we've watched several movies now that are kind of surrounded by Vietnam War. We watched Full Metal Jacket. That was kind of all about being in it. And then we watched Trial of the Chicago 7, which is a big dialogue heavy movie about just people being pissed off about our involvement in it. And I know that I don't know many details about it, but I know that it was a controversial thing that we were in it. And then this is just another movie that kind of paints the picture of this was a person that was in war that is just trying to come back to normal civilization and live his life. And he's dealing with, well, probably people that didn't want him around there and that don't understand him at all, and escalate the situation even beyond that. And so when this all came, like I didn't even think about it being just him being pushed to the edge, and until he snapped in that last scene. And like, and they say that he snapped. Like when I was reading the dialogue or the synopsis of the movie, they're saying that he snapped and goes into the woods and fights these guys. But I think he snapped when I thought he was in his element throughout the movie, and then he really snapped and broke down at the end when he had his moment of feelings and emotion.
Yeah, I think there are multiple snaps, if you will.
I guess I didn't even think about the first one with the shaving.
Yeah,
that
so
definitely was a snap.
so the shaving part is kind of where it's like we meet this character who's very melancholy, if you will, at the beginning of the movie, and
looking back, he probably doesn't know what to do.
Yeah,
with his life,
he's just kind of a wanderer. He's a vagrant who just doesn't know where his life is supposed to be now that he doesn't have this. And that kind of goes into when the cop first comes up, his senses get heightened, and he's kind of back to this, okay, something's going on here that I'm not going to be a fan of.
I need to fight my way out.
And so when we see him turn back, once the cop drops him off, he's kind of it makes me think of that one of the lines that he said in that last scene of, I got back from the airport and everybody's protesting me, calling me baby killer when I'm not the one that decided to go fight this war. And so he's like, what does he know? Why can't I just go get food in this town and then be on my way? And then the full snap happens where he pretty much goes back to Vietnam and his Vietnam self when the first time is when he sees the jail windows. He kind of snaps and he's like, oh, this is PTSD,
Yep.
Flashbacks to this type of thing. And then when he's getting shaved, it brought him back to him being tortured.
Yep.
And so I think the final snap back and it wasn't to the melancholy person, it was to the person who is just fully defeated and doesn't know what to do. And he's finally with somebody again that,
might
like he
understand
said, is the closest thing he has left to family.
Yeah, and I think that it wasn't really a snap back to anything. It was just he finally had all these emotions bottled up. Yeah. And he finally just kind of, broke down. And and you said it earlier that really tipped me off that this movie actually was probably at the time that it was made, very realistic for this kind of mixture of these people who were in the Vietnam War coming back into these maybe small towns, and these different perceptions that people, maybe a lot of the people that lived in these towns or that lived in the U.S. and never even set foot and didn't know anything about the actual war going on over there, made judgments and had this idea of what these people were and who they were. And then there's this Rambo character who knew what he was doing over there and knew exactly, and he knew that they didn't know, but you can't just go around and change everybody's mind. You just have to accept it and live with it. He had to accept it and live with it. And he had a very douchey sheriff pushing him around. But other than that, he just kind of finally broke down and just wanted his friends and wanted the life that they kind of created for him for this war.
Yeah, at first I didn't like the ending, and then as it kind of continued to go, I understood its role in the movie, and I liked it. It almost seemed like an existential crisis for him. Don't want to get into the assuming of PTSD and stuff. I think he just had a life. It was his life, and he was good at it. I mean, he said all the reasons why he loved it and why he felt important. And then coming back home, everything that he was good at and important, or everything that he was good at and made him important, made him insignificant, if not worse than everyone else he was around. And so I think the whole kind of beginning to end of this movie is he goes to try and find the one person that understands him, who's his friend, who's dead. And finding that was the tipping point for me for him, because he was emotionally drained and at a loss and on the brink of his existential crisis, and then that cop treating him the way he did just kind of emphasized his lack of importance at home. And so that for me was the whole point of his monologue and that scene, was that it was an existential crisis, self kind of realization of what just happened over the last 24 hours or however long it was, and an understanding of the problems that he's facing. And I think maybe even possibly the first time he's verbalizing it. So all the in-depth stuff, teach their own, but I think it was weirdly in-depth for a very, in Jacob's words, bang, bang, boom, boom kind of movie. That was surprisingly good, but definitely a surprise. That's my tidbit.
I think for me, why I like it so much is it changed, like, kind of like from a movie where you root for him and you're like, oh yeah, you got this, Rambo, take down this bully that's pushing you around and like stick to your guns, to a movie where I was like more empathetic and kind of like, holy shit, this is like, he's making me feel some emotion of like towards how someone in his shoes would actually, like why they are breaking down like this, and because of all of the things that have happened in his life. And so I think it changed from a rooting for a team to empathy about like he won, but he didn't really win. So yeah, I really liked it.
Now, my favorite part of the movie, the good old, beautiful, beautiful Pacific Northwest, the shining golden star of this movie, was the scenery. Goodness gracious, it was gorgeous.
You want to break his heart or me?
You.
This was filmed in Canada.
That's Pacific Northwest.
Oh, I thought you were just saying Oregon. I thought you were making your Oregon reference.
Pacific, Oregon, Washington, Vancouver, British Columbia. That's Pacific Northwest, baby.
Yeah, this is beautiful. Oregon's not quite.
No.
Yeah, Oregon's like a little too close to California to be that beautiful.
It's all gorgeous. It was gorgeous scenery, gorgeous movie.
It was gorgeous scenery.
It was.
That is a big.
Mainly because it's not Oregon.
Yeah. Mostly because it's Canada.
If Jacob has a 5-point non-PC boost, I have a 5-point gorgeous scenery boost.
That's fair.
Because that can save a movie for me. Well, not save a movie, but it can make it worth watching.
What do you think? Should that transition us into our scores?
Let's do it.
What you got?
Oh, wait, I can't go first.
Did you already give the...
Oh, no, not at all. Let's see. So first up, we've got the aggregators. IMDb, 7.7 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes, 85%. And Metacritic, what are they doing over there? 61%. Brutal. Crazy town. Tate, let's go to you first for a score if you've got it.
I don't. Pat.
All right, fine. Tate doesn't want to give a score. It was really good. Its dialogue was bad, except for the last monologue and the funny scene. It wasn't terribly special on the action side, but it was fine. Like, it was eye-catching and it made you watch. Scenery, absolutely gorgeous. That's definitely going to give it a boost for me. Sylvester Stallone did fine. The other guys did fine. I think it's like a perfectly good average. What's something like? It's a perfectly good movie. This is a really hard one, though. You know, I'm struggling too much. I'm just going to give it an 80 out of 100.
Shit.
Bang!
Is that what you guessed?
That's what I guessed. I already had it written down.
Yeah.
I told him it was going to be lower.
No. It's perfectly, yeah. It's too perfectly good. Not great, not exceptional, not okay, not bad. It's just too perfectly good to not be higher than an 80 or lower than an 80. It's just an 80.
I'm going to stick with an 80 as well, but I think for different reasons. For this movie, I was going to give it probably like a 70 for the first 80% of it, up until that last scene, because I was wondering how they're going to end it, but I think it ended beautifully. So that's what bumped it up to an 80 for me, because, yeah, like I was talking about earlier, it changed what the meaning of this movie was for me. Like I thought it was just going to be kind of the Bourne type, where it was just going to be purely action, not a lot of really of the touchy-feely type stuff. But went the way it ended up. This is a completely different movie to me now than Bourne or Shooter or those types of movies where they hunt down one guy who is a well-trained combat. But so I really liked it in the end. Sticking with an 80.
So I, probably not to the surprise of many, I'm going to go higher than that. This is a 90 for me. I think not many movies can you have like the very last scene change how you view the entire first 7/8 of the movie. It doesn't get higher than a 90 just because I think if they would have sprinkled a little bit more of that last scene throughout, it would have been better. But 90 is still a very good score, and that's going to be an average score of 83.
Pretty good.
So I think before I wrap everything up, I would like to give out kind of some numbers you can call if you are struggling with PTSD. The Veteran Crisis line is 800-273-TALK, 8255, 800-273-TALK. They've actually got a text line as well. Text HOME to 741741. And the National Hope Line Network, 800-442-HOPE, or 4673. So that's 800-422-4673. And I'll also put those in the episode description. So if you need any of those, go to the description. They'll be right there for you. And all right, folks, that is going to do it for today. If you have thoughts or questions, you can shoot us an email at gd4ampodcast@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Instagram at gd4gd.movies. And we're also on Twitter at gd4gd_movies. If you like what we're doing, hit us up on there. And if you really like what we're doing, we would love for you to leave us a 5-star review on whatever platform you listen on, especially Apple Podcasts. Just make sure they're all 5 stars.
And if not, we'll draw first blood.
You heard it here first, folks. All right, we will catch